All right. I hope I'm clearly visible and audible. Let me share the slide. All right. So the topic which we will be dealing today is simple interest and compound interest. Uh, I mean, few of you might find this as a difficult topic just because it involves a lot of calculation. The calculation can get really messy at times, but it can also be a very easy topic if you are good at calculations. Uh, I mean, it's just if you know the formula, you will directly get the answer, and it's purely formula based and calculation based. So for simple interest part, the calculations are fairly easy since you don't have much complications there. But for compound interest, things do get little messy. What we will be doing in today's class, I'll be covering a range of questions which can be asked from this topic. I think I have included one or two type of question of, of each type of question, and we will be solving them. The main aim of my class would be to help you understand the concept and get at least how to solve at least one question of each type. I expect that you go home and solve few more questions or a complete practice sheet on compound interest and simple interest. Having said that, let's begin with the class. Okay, so when does your interest come into play? Uh, it's ideally when you invest some amount in a bank, let's say, or when you borrow some amount. Sorry, when you borrow some amount. So I hope all of you know that when you keep some amount of money in bank, they give you some interest, or if you borrow some money, let's say a loan, you will have to pay an interest back while paying the loan back. There are few key terms which you should know. The first one is a principal. A principal is the amount which you initially borrow or you invest. So if I decide to invest 1,000 in State Bank of India tomorrow, then 1,000 rupees would be my principal amount. Then time is basically for how many years you are keeping the money in the bank or whatever institute it is. So let's say I invest 1,000 rupees in State Bank of India for 3 years. So in this case, my time period, usually denoted by N. Here N, we use N because it denotes number of years. So it will be 3 years. Then there will be some rate of interest, like they will charge you some rate of interest on the money invested or borrowed. So as per my knowledge, the interest rate for a fixed deposit is somewhere around 7 to 8% at different banks right now. Uh, Not even 7 to 8, I guess it's 6 to 7, somewhere between 6 to 7. All right, so they will give you some rate of interest at which you will get the what I can say, your interest. And there is one more term, amount. So amount is simply principal plus interest. So let's say I invested 1,000 rupees, which was my principal, for 3 years at, let's say, 7% per annum. 7%, I get 7% of money which I have invested back every year. So my amount after 3 years would be how much? The principal plus whatever interest I gave. All right. I hope the basic terminologies are clear. Now let's have a look at the formulas. Now the interest can be of two types. One can be a simple interest, another can be a compound interest. So I'll go to next slide and explain you. These are the formulas which we will be using to calculate interest. Please note this is the amount of using compound interest. So let's say if I put 1,000 rupees today for 3 years at 10% interest rate at compound interest. All right, I'll write somewhere, it's a compound interest. So after 3 years, my amount will be given by this formula. However, on this side, on the left hand side, what you have is the formula for simple interest. So I'll get the interest for 3 years from here. So if you want to find amount, you will have to do the principal, the initial amount I invested, plus the interest. And in this case, you will get the amount. So if you want to find interest, you will have to do amount minus principal. All right. Now let me explain you what is simple interest and compound interest. Uh, let's say a standard example would be I am investing 10,000 rupees for 10% per annum. So this is my principal P and this is my rate of interest R. So let me draw something like a table so comparison is much easier. So this is simple, this is compound, first year, second year, third year. Right, I'll have amount on one hand and interest. So we can compare both amount and interest. All right. So I have invested 1000 rupees at 10%. Using simple interest, what will be my interest for first year? It will be 100 rupees. So, uh, sorry. So the amount will become 1100 and interest would be 100 rupees. For next year, I'll get the same interest and now my amount would be 1200. For third year, again 100, then 1300 and so on. So what happens in simple interest is that you get a fixed interest on your principal. I'll repeat. You get a fixed amount of interest on your principal. So if I decide I'll put 1000 rupees tomorrow or 10,000 rupees tomorrow, whatever simple interest I get over the years will be same. So you can see that it is constant for every year. But on the other hand, what happens in compound interest? For compound interest, the first year would be the same. It will be 10%. So my amount would be 1100 and interest would be 100. Now what happens next year? Next year, you will get 10% on the principal. So 10% on 1000 rupees. It will be how much? 100 rupees. And you also get an interest on your interest. So you earn 100 rupees in first year, you will also get a 10% interest on that. So it will be simply 10 rupees. So you get 100 on your principal and you get 10 on your interest. So the interest for this year would be 110 and the amount would become 1210. All right. What in other way, what I can say, I have received 10% interest on my current amount. Similarly, for next year, I'll get 10% of this. It will be what? 121 and my amount will be 1331. Next year, I'll get 10% of this, which is 133.1. So, compound interest is basically you get interest on interest and so on. Like for first year, you get interest on 100 rupees. In next year, you will also get interest on this 10 rupees. So, in simple interest, you get a fixed interest on whatever sum you initially invested. For compound interest, the interest keeps on increasing or let's say changing. It will be increasing definitely at year by year. So if you do a comparison between simple interest and compound interest, it was 1100, 1200, 1300. The amount as well as the interest for compound, it will go on increasing rapidly. Depends on the interest rate, rapidly or slowly, than the simple interest. All right. So I hope the main difference between simple interest and compound interest is now clear to you. One key learning or one key note which you should make in your copy is that the interest for first year, let it be simple interest or compound interest, is always equal. So I'll write it somewhere here. Simple interest equal to compound interest for 1 year, first year. All right. This note can be very helpful when you solve few questions. Like they can be asking you what is the, uh, they might ask you what is the difference between simple interest and compound interest for some amount in 1 year. So in 1 year, the simple interest and compound interest are exactly same. So you would not get any difference. So if I make a column of difference here, let's say, for first year, the difference would be 0. For next year, it would be 10, then 21, and the difference would keep on increasing. All right. I hope the difference between simple interest and or the main key concept of simple interest and compound is clear to you. Okay, now let's go back and I suggest you make a note of these formulas. For simple interest, it's very easy. You multiply your principal into number of years into interest rate. Now, interest rate is usually given as percent. Percent means per 100. So you write it as R upon 100. Simple interest is fairly easy to find out. But for compound interest, you will have to do 1 plus R upon 100 to the power n. Now, when there is an exponential to the power n, if you if you are given for 5 years, then finding compound interest would become way more difficult. Why? Because you will have to take, let's say, it's something like 12%. So it would be 12 upon 100, 1 plus 12. So it could be 1112 upon 100, and now you have to do it for 5 years, so you take it to the power 5. Now I don't think or uh, I don't think they will be asking you for more than 3 years in compound interest. So usually for compound interest they are interested in 2 years or 3 years. Why? Because it's easier to find cubes and square of numbers. But when it goes beyond three, let's say four, five, or six, it's not possible to do the calculation manually. So from an exam perspective, you should be very thorough with your cubes and squares for finding compound interest easily. We will be solving some questions, so I'll give you some tips how to solve it quickly. All right. Now let's move to some practice set. Okay. First question, a very direct one. What is the simple interest on 20,000 at 18% per annum for period of 2 years? So my principal is 20,000, rate of interest is 18%, and number of years is 2. So simple interest is nothing but 20,000 into 2 into 18 by 100. I cancel out these two zeros. It will be 18 into 2 into 2. That will be 18 4 the 7200. Alright, this is my simple interest for 2 years. If I explain you in that tabular format, for first year, you will get what? 18% of 20,000, which will be nothing but 3600. This was for first year. Again, for second year, you will get 3600. So total, you will get 7200. Alright, fairly easy question. Let's move ahead. What sum of money will yield a simple interest of 7200 in 4 years at 12% per annum? Now here you have been asked to find principal. In last question you were given these three and you were asked simple interest. So if you know any three values out of these four, you can easily find out the fourth one using the formula. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So I have been given a rate of interest as 12%. Uh, Number of year is 4, and the simple interest is 7200. So I'll write the formula f equal to PNR upon 100. So if I rearrange for P, it will be SI upon NR into 100. I've taken these two terms and this term on this side. So it will be what, 7200 upon 4 into 12 into 100. So 12 5s are 60, 12 6 are 72. And if you do this, you will get 25. 25 into 600 would give you nothing but 15,000. All right. So the principal amount, I'll change the color. So principal amount in this case would be 15,000. Again, if we make a tabular format, I'll make the tabular format so that it's easier to explain as well as easier to understand. So if I had invested 15,000 for first year at 12%, I would have got how much? 1800. For second year, 1800. Third year, 1800. Fourth year, 1800. So the total interest for 4 years would be 7200. All right. So we were given simple interest, rate of interest, number of years, and we were asked to find principal. I hope the solution is clear to you. All right, let's move ahead with the next question. In how many years a sum becomes 6 times of itself at 20% per annum? All right, this is a question where you are not exactly given a value, but you are asked in how many years will it become. Now there is a relationship. I'll explain how. Let's say I invest 100 rupees and at 20%, I'll get how much interest for first year? 20 rupees, and my amount will become 120. Again, for second year, it will be 20%, so 20 rupees on original. So 140, then 160, 180, and 200. So in how many years I'm getting double? It is I am getting in 5 years. In 5 years, the amount will be doubled. But now they are asking me in how many years will it become 6 times? Now you can either do it this way. I'll also tell you the formula method, or you can make a progression or something and try to solve it. Like the first term is 100. If you are good at progression, arithmetic progression, the difference would be 20, and the TN is 600 because I want 6 times. You can find it this way. But if I do by formula method, so I invested principal P and it becomes 6 times. That means I have earned an interest of 5p. This is my interest. It's a simple interest. It's given in the question. So what simple interest? Simple interest equal to P and R upon 100. My SI is what? 5p equal to P and R by 100. You can cancel out the P. I know the rate of interest is 20, so I'll write it 20 here. So can I find the n now? N would be simply 5 into 100 upon 20. So if you do divide by 5, you will get 25 as an answer. That means in 25 years, the amount will become 6 times of itself. All right. Hope the question is clear to you. I started with P and it became 6p later. You can also keep it as 100 and it later became 600. So I earned an amount of how much? 500 rupees as interest. You can put 500, 100 and you will get the answer anyway. All right. I hope the solution is clear to you. So you can expect such question where you are asked in how many years a sum becomes twice, thrice, 4 times, 5 times at a given rate of interest. Or it can be other way around. They can give you number of years and they will ask you rate of interest. Okay. Let's move ahead now. What sum of money, what sum of money amounts to 7 to 500 at 15% simple interest? They are asking me amount. So here I have been asked A. So my amount is given as 7 to 500. They are asking me principal. So sum of money which you need to invest to get an amount of 7 to 500 in 3 years and a rate of interest of 15%. All right. Here you don't have SI. So can you find SI? SI is simply given by, or we have the relationship as amount equal to principal plus simple interest. What's my simple interest by formula? It is P and R upon 100. Can I take the P out of these two as common? 1 plus NR by 100, and the amount I have is 7 to 500. I know the number of years. It is how much 3, and rate of interest is also given. 1 plus 3 15, which is 45. I'll write it directly as 45 upon 100. Now you can do a cross multiplication here, not cross multiplication. You can multiply 100. So you will get 7 to 500 equal to P into 100 plus 45, you get 145 by 100. And so for P, you can do 172500 upon 145, and here it would be 100 in numerator. So how much would it be? 15 fives, I guess. Yes, it would be 50,000 as a number. So the principal which you have been asked, sorry, is 50,000. All right, what did I do? I did not have simple interest, but I know the relationship between amount, principal, and simple interest. So I write it that way. I put the formula, I substitute the formula of simple interest, and then I know the three terms. I need to find the fourth one. All right. So this is yet another example that even if you are not given simple interest, but if you are given amount, you can find out principal or any of these three, P, N, or R. All right. So I told you that if P and R and simple interest is given, any three of them are given, fourth can be found. I'll again write it as P, N, R, simple interest, or amount. If any three between these are given, you can easily find the rest of two. So you just need 3 out of 5 from these to find. If there are not three different terms given or some another relationship given, you can say the data is insufficient to find the answer. All right. I hope the question is clear to you. Let's move to next one. Okay, now it says a sum of money at simple interest amounts to this in 5 years and 1111 in 6 years. You have been asked the sum. That means you have been asked the principal. Now you don't have rate of interest given. You have number of years, but you are not again given with the principal. How can you find out? All right. Uh, for 5 years or and 6 years, I know the amount. Amount is 41045 and 1111. So what is the difference between these two? That is 66. Yes. So 66 is my simple interest for 1 year. Now you very well know that simple interest is consistent across all years. Let it be first year or 10th year, the simple interest is always the same. Now you know the simple interest, it is 66. You know the amount. Can you find the principal? So I can rewrite the relationship here and write. I know amount is equal to principal plus SI. Now what is SI for 5 years? Since it will be the accumulated interest. पहले साल का कुछ इंटरेस्ट मिला, सेकंड का मिला, थर्ड का मिला, फोर्थ का मिला, फाइव का मिला. So it will be 5 times of 66. 66 for first year, 66 for second year, third year, fourth year, and fifth year. So you simply add it or you multiply it by 5, you will get 330. So that's my simple interest. I know the amount as 1045 and simple interest is 330. So what will be my principal? It will be, I guess, how much? 1045 minus 330, 15, 7, 715. Alright, this is my principal amount. So if I had invested 5500, sorry, 715 rupees for first year. For the first year, I would have get interest of 66, 66, and keep on for 5 years and until the amount becomes 1045. So in this case, you were given interest of 2 years, sorry, amount of 2 years. You can find the simple interest. Here it was consecutive years. Had it been, let's say, fifth year and seventh year, for fifth year and seventh year, you would get the difference as 2 times simple interest. Then you can find the simple interest and again you can use this relationship to solve the problem. I hope the question is clear and the concept is even clear because the concept is more important in this point. Alright, so if you were given, let's say, for fifth year, the amount is 1045 and for seventh year, the amount is 111. So the difference is again 66, but this is for 2 years. This is compound simple interest of 2 years. So for 1 year, it would be how much? 33. Then you can find how much is the accumulated interest for 5 years. And then you can find, you know the amount, you know the simple interest, you can find the principal. All right, let's move ahead with the next question. A sum of 1200 amounts to 1380 in 3 years at simple interest. If the interest rate is increased by 3 percentage point, then it would amount to how much? All right, let's look at the first statement only. I know the principal is 1200. I know number of year is 3. The amount is 1380. And I don't know the rate of interest. Can I find out the rate of interest? Yes. What would be my simple interest in this case? It will be amount minus principal. So 1380 minus 1200 would give me 180. I know this is nothing but PNR by 100. What's P here? It's 1200. Number of year is 3. And I don't know the rate of interest upon 100. I can divide these two zeros. So 180 equal to 36R. So R must be 5. Alright, if the question was just limited to finding rate of interest, you would have the solution at this point. Now the question asks you the rate of interest is increased by 3 percentage points. So what's the new rate of interest? I'll change the color. Now the new rate of interest is 8% since it has increased by 3. Alright. Now they are asking me what would be the amount. So the principal remains the same and number of year remains the same. Can you find out? Alright. So my rate of interest initially was 500. A new rate of interest is 8%. My principal is 1200 and number of year is 3. So simple interest now would be 1200 into 8 into 3 upon 100. So it would be how much? 24 into 12, which is 288. 24, 12 into 24. So you can write 24 as 12 into 2. We know 12 square is 144. So its twice would be 288. Alright. This was just a rough work. So I get 288 as the simple interest. So amount would be principal, which is 1200 plus interest. It will be 1488. All right, the correct answer for this question would be 1488. So in this case, you were given first three values. You were asked to find the rate of interest. After finding, they add additional question that it is increased by 3 percentage points, and then they are asking you to find amount again. I hope the answer is clear. It is 1488. Let's move ahead. Okay, this is yet another type of question which can be asked. Divide 3650 in two parts such that simple interest on first part at 6% for 2 years is equal to simple interest on second part at 4% for 3 years. So you can think like you are investing in two different banks. Let's say one is State Bank of India, SBI, and another is Central Bank of India. So you put some amount, you have 3650, you invest some amount, let's say A in SBI, and so how much would you invest in CBI? It would be 365 minus 50. You are getting, you are keeping here for 2 years, here for 3 years, at here 6% rate of interest, 4% rate of interest. And you have been told that the simple interest in both the cases is same. Can you find out the parts? Can you find the value of A? So it's simply just put the formula of simple interest and simple interest in the play. So it will be P n for first part is 6. Sorry, it's 2 years at 6%. This is equal to 3560 minus A. This is my principal for 3 years at 4% rate of interest. So 100 cancel. 6 2s are 12 and 3 4s are 12. That means the principal for both the cases is equal. So we invested exactly half amount in each of the bank, or let's say in both the parts are equal. So half of 3650 would be 1825. So this is the amount. This is part A equal to part B equal to 1825. Alright, if I had two parts A and B, then the amount would be 1825 and 1825. Alright, I hope the answer is clear to you. You can expect such questions. These are fairly easy to solve. You just need to formulate the equation correctly and you can get the answer of the missing term. Okay. Okay, last, I think, yeah, this is last question for your simple interest. A man invested one third of its capital at 7%, one fourth at 8%, and the rest at 10%. So let's say he started with 100 rupees. I won't take 100 because it's one third, so it will be difficult to deal. I also need one fourth, so let me take 1200. We can assume any number. This was his capital. He invested one third, which is 400 at 7%, and how much? One fourth, which is 300 at 8%. So this is total 700. How much is left? 500. So rest at 10%. His annual income is 561. So it must be for 1 year. 7% of this would be 28. This would be 24, and this would be 50. So what's the total income? In this case, it's 103, 102. So if he had 1200 as the capital, he would get 102 as the interest or his annual income. But the question says he has an annual income of 561. So can you find out his capital? You can simply do it by cross multiplication. So my x would be 1200 into 561 upon 102. You can divide these two by 51. 51 twos are, and this would be 51 into 11. This would be 6. So x is 6600. So 6600 is the capital he had. So he invested one third at 7%, one fourth at 8%, and remaining at 10%. You can also you could have easily assumed this. Uh, I hope the solution this part is clear. I'll tell you other way. You can start with the assumption his capital BX. So x by 3, x by 4, and whatever is left, it would be how much? It would be one third. 3 plus 4, 7. So 5x by 12 is his remaining. You can find 7%, 8%, and 10%. You can find it this way also. You can add these three and say it is 516. But the only problem is when it comes to fractions and then percentages, it just gets little difficult to solve. You can assume it to be 100, 10,000, or any value which you want, and you can solve. All right. Okay, let's move to compound interest now. So, what was the formula for compound interest? Amount is equal to P into 1 plus R upon 100 to the power n. This question asks me what is the compound interest on 71400. This is my principal at rate of interest of 20% for 2 years, compounded annually. I'll talk about what is compounded annually and what is compounded semi-annually in next question. For now, you can have this formula. So if I divide this, it will be how much? 1 upon 5. 1 plus 1 upon 5 would give me 6 upon 5. So I can write it as 36 upon 25. Or you can write it as 6 by 5 into 6 by 5. If it's cancelling out, you can write it 6 by 5 into 6 by 5, but I don't see anything to cancel here. So I'll straight away write it as 36 by 25. So if I divide this by 25, you will get, let's say it is 714 into 100. So this will be into 4. So you can find the solution. 36 into 4 would be how much? 114, and then into 714. All right. This is the reason I was saying the calculation gets little messy. Here still it was 20%, so it was divisible by, or it was some way cancelling out with 100. It can be really difficult when it is not divisible by 100. And also here the number of year was 2, so it's a simple one. So 16, 1 carry, 16 again 7, 1 carry, 5, 6, this put a 0. It would be 1, 4, 4, 22 zeros, 7 4s are 28, 20, 30, 3 carry, 10. So it would be how much? 6, 1, this is 9, 8. I had one carry from here, then again we'll carry. 102,816. This is the amount. All right. They are asking you for the compound interest. So my principal was 71400. So what's the interest? It is 31416. All right. Uh, I may have made some calculation error, but that is not what I'm trying to teach you here. I hope you are better at calculation than me. The keynote is how to solve these questions. All right. This was straight away question. You had the given values. You just need to find. You can expect such questions. These are fairly easy question I can see. If you are having a tough time with the calculation, you may skip this question, but I would recommend you practice the calculation since it is very easy or direct marks. You put the values, you get the answer, you take the correct answer, you get 4 marks or 1 mark. All right, let's move ahead. What is compound interest on 10,000 at 20% for 1.5 year compounded semi-annually? Now, what is semi-annually? Semi-annually means for 6 months. That means you are given interest after every 6 months. So let's have a comparative look at both of these. I'll just keep the amount here. Let's say I start with 10%. 10,000 rupees at 10% per annum. Per annum means for all year. So for 6 months, what would be rate of interest? It would be 5% for 6 months, right? It would be half. So for first 6 months, I would get how much? 50 rupees as my interest. So amount would be 1050. There's nothing here right now. After 1 year, here it would be 1000 rupees. And now you need to find 5% on this value. So what would be 5%? 1% would be 10.5 into 5. So it's nothing but 52.5. So the amount which you would get here would be 1100 2.5. So you are slightly getting more amount or more interest in 6 months when you are compounding semi-annually than when you are compounded annually. So what does this imply? If I am compounding at 1 year, the interest would be less than if I am compounding at 6 months. It would be less than 4 months, which is usually quarterly. So this is annually, semi-annually. This is your quarterly. Or if I start calculating monthly, it would be even further plus. All right, now let's see how to solve the question. Just give me a second. All right, so we were solving how to get compound interest. Sorry. Yeah, on 10,000 for semi-annual. So in this case, it would be 10,000 into the rate of interest would be half since we are doing it for 6 months. The example which I did, I started with 10% and for 6 months I had 5%. So here I have 20% per annum. So it would be 10% for semi-annually. That means 1.5. But you would be calculating it for three, right? Basically, you are calculating it 3 times, 2 times a year. So you need to multiply it by 2. Why by 2? Because let's say if you are calculating yearly, you would calculate 1 time. If you calculated after every 6 months, you would get 2 times. If you are calculating after every 4 months, you would get 4 times. Alright, that's why this would be very helpful. Uh, like you need to multiply it by 2. So how much would it be? It would be 10,000. I can do is 1 by 10. So this will be 10,000 into 11 by 10 to the power 3. If you know cube of 11, it is 1331 and cube of 10 would be 1000. I can cancel out 1000. It would be the final amount would be 13310, 13,310. So the simple interest would be compound interest would be 3,310. All right. So what I did here, you need to adjust rate of interest and you need to adjust number of years. This would be the only impact. I am not giving a straight away formula for this since I want you guys to be little adaptive with the formula. If you want straight away formula, I can also give you that. So for semi-annually, amount would be P into 1 plus R by 2 into 100. Here the rate is for annum for every year. It's annual rate, and you just need to do here 2y. All right, you can remember this formula for semi-annual compound interest, but my goal would be, I would be happier if you know how it's done. So if somebody asks you for quarterly, I hope you can solve it now. All right, do some practice, solve some more questions of this kind. Uh, okay, let's move ahead with the next question now. What sum becomes 10,368 in 3 years at 20% per amount per annum? So you are given the amount here and you need to find the principal. Amount is how much? Principal into 1 plus R is how much? 20 by 100 for 3 years. So P into 6 by 5 Q. So I can write it as 6 by 5, 6 by 5, 6 by 5. I'll divide this by 6. 6 ones are 6, 6 twos are 12. So 12, 48, 6. This will be changed. It will be 7. Yeah. 10 dividing by 6. It will give me 6 twos are 12, 52. 6 eights are 48, 48 4 remaining, 6 eights are 48. And again by 6, it will give me 6 fours are 24, 48 carry, 6 eights are 48. So now you can find 48 into 125. Since I'll take 555 on this side. 5 cube is 125. So it will be how much? 40, 20 to 40 plus, simply double it, 840 plus 480. So you would get how much? 80 will be 8 again, 586. Is that correct? No, it would be 0, 6 of them carry, 96. So I'm getting how much? 0, 0, 10, 0, 6. Yeah, 6,000. So if you had the principal of 6,000, after 3 years for 20% per annum, the amount would be 10,368. Okay. All right. So this was again a fairly easy question. Instead of amount, you were asked principal here. Okay. I have this question and okay, we are left with 3 more questions. I'll slightly extend the class by 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, a certain amount of money at R% compounded annually after 2 years and 3 years becomes 1400 and 7828. Now find the value of R. We had a similar question in simple interest. In that case, we simply did simple interest as difference of 2 consecutive years. But that's not the case for compound interest. Compound interest would be different for each year. So what you can do, you can straight away write the formula. So for 2 years, what would be the amount? It would be 1400 equal to P into 1 plus R upon 100 to the power 2. And for 3 years, it would be 1728 P into 1 plus R upon 100 by 3. If I say this is equation 1 and this is equation 2, if I do equation 2 by equation 1, I can cancel this out. 3 is a power 3 and power 2. So I'll get how much? It will be 1728 upon 1400. P will get cancelled out. I'm not interested in P. I'll get 1 plus R upon 100. So can you solve this equation to find R? I'll straight away solve it. It will be 72800. You multiply it here, so it will be, this will be 100 plus R when you solve. Or you can take the 1 here first. So it will be how much? 728 minus 1440. 8, again 8, 288. So you get R upon 100 as 288 upon 1400. So this is nothing but twice 10. So this is 1 by 5. So the rate of, I, I can I can keep this as how much? Did I make some mistake? It'll be 288 upon 1400 equal to upon 100. Yeah, so this will be how much? 2 by 10 into 100. So if I cancel this out, I'll get rate of interest as 20%. Alright, so in this case, we formed two equations, and instead of subtracting or adding, we took ratio of these two or division of these two, and I was able to find R. Now, if the question, here it asks you for the value of R, if it had asked you for the principal amount, you put the value of R here and you solve for P. Alright, for simple interest, you can have the difference between 2 years for finding the SI. For compound interest, you need to take ratio and you will get the rate of interest first. Alright, I hope this question is clear. Let's move to next. Okay, this is similar to the question which we solved. Divide rupees 1105 between A and B so that the amount after 5 years is equal to amount of B after 7 years. This should be amount of A after 5 years is equal to B after 7 years. Interest being compounded 10% annual. So I can let 1105 into A and 1105 minus A. What they are saying the amount after 5 years. So what would be the amount? 1A into 1 plus what's the rate of interest? 10% for 5 years is equal to 1105 minus A into 1 plus 10 by 100 to the power 7. Can I cancel this out? I will be left with 2 here. Since 7 upon 5, I will get minus 2. Since it is power, if you know the rule of indices. Alright, this is the rule I am referring to. So I would be left with what? A equal to 1105 minus A into this will be how much? 6 by 5 into 6 by 5. Not 6 by 5. This will be 11 by 10 into 11 by 10. Alright, you can solve this equation. I'll do it quickly since we are running low on time. It will be 100A 1105 into 121 minus 121A. If I transpose this, I'll get how much here? 221. If I can see this is clearly 5 times of this. 221, if you take half, it will be 1105. Alright. So this is 5 times. So if you solve, I'll get how much? 605. So value of A is 605. Change the color. So A equal to 605. How much would be B? B will be 1105 minus 605, which would be 500. So you had invested 605 rupees in A and 500 in B. So this is similar to the question we solved for simple interest. You just have to form the equation correctly and then you have to solve. Alright. Now let's move to the last question for the day. Uh, I want to explain some concept with this question as well. Okay, at compound interest, a certain amount doubles itself in n years. Then in how much time it should be? In how much time the amount will be fourfolds? Before going to compound interest, let me talk about simple interest. Let's say I am investing 100 rupees at 25%, let's say 25% rate per annum. So in first year, I would get 125, then 150, then 175, and then 200. So in how many? 1, 2, 3, 4 years, it is twice or double the amount. Now, how much time would it take for 300? Again, 4 years from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 225, 250, 275, and then 300. So in 8 years, it would be twice. In 12 years, it would be 4 times. All right. So the growth is linear in some simple interest. Now, instead, let's say just for simple interest, I had 100 is doubling to 200 in n years. Then how many years would it take for 300 from 200 to 300? Again n years, again n years for 400. So in this way, for simple interest to double, if I'm taking n, so for thrice, it is taking 2n. For 4 times, it is taking 3n. But for what's happening in compound interest, let's see. I invest 100 rupees. In n number of years, it becomes twice. Now, how many years would it take to become what would happen in next n years? So for next n years, you would get principal is my 100. So you would get double, you would get 200 from on the principal in n years. Also in compound, you get interest on interest. So my interest at this point was 200. You also get twice of it. So it will be at end of next n years, you would get 400. I hope the logic is clear to you, how it's becoming 400. You are getting interest on interest, or you can say the new principal is 200. So then again in n years, it would become 800. Then in again 8 years, n years, it would be 1600. So for compound interest, it is not linear, rather it's exponential. So it's becoming twice in n years, then it is becoming 4 times in 2n years. And let's say 8 times in 3n. All right, if you do a one-on-one comparison, now you understand why compound interest is much more preferable than simple interest. The question is already answered. If a certain amount doubles itself in n years, it would become fourfold in how many years? For compound interest, it is simply 2n years. But let's say you have been asked in how many years it becomes 16 times. I'm saying 16 times. So for simple interest, it would be 16 minus 1, 15 n years. How did I get this? You can solve. See, for 4 times it taking 3n. For 5 it will take 4n. So similarly for 16 times it will take 15n. But what's happening here? It will keep on doubling. So after 8 times you would get 16 times in 4 years, 4n years. All right. So this is the difference, the main difference between a simple interest and a compound interest. In simple interest, you take much longer duration. However, in compound interest, you take much less duration. So if there's some question of this nature, I hope you can solve it in your exam now. So let me quickly wrap up the class today or today's session. We first saw some formulas of compound interest, simple interest. We got the concept as well. Then we saw if P, N, R interest, it can be simple interest or compound interest, and amount. If any three out of these five is given, you can find this too. These were one set of questions. The next was six, it was doubling or n times in how many years? We did the same question for simple interest, if you remember. See, in how many years a sum becomes six times of itself. So it was coming as 25. So why six times? So if I started with 100, I would get 600. So my interest would be 500. And so it takes 20% per annum. So you can divide 500 upon 20 and you can get 25 as your answer. So we did that kind of questions where it becomes double or n times. We also did where you have some capital and you split it between two or more investment opportunities. Like we split in A and B. And what else we do? Yeah, this type of questions where given, you have given amount of 2 years, and then you are asked for any value, let's say principal number of years. They can't ask you number of years since it's given. Rate of interest, yeah, these two can be asked. So that's it from my side. Uh, I would recommend simple. Simple interest is a fairly very easy topic, but compound interest can get little messy in calculation. So you need to be very good at calculation. If you think calculation is taking much time of yours during exam, I would also recommend skipping compound interest. So it's your call. If you want sure shot marks and you're ready to spend some time, go for compound interest questions. But if you want to save time on calculation and put it into use somewhere else, then you can skip compound interest question. All right. Uh, Please go home and solve a whole practice sheet or practice problems on this topic, so you would be better while solving it in exam. Okay, that's it from my side. If you have any doubts, let me know in the comment section. Thank you. Have a good day.